Welcome everybody, today I'm going to teach you guys how to win and carry games on Sylas. I'm going to be walking through Sylas as a champion, who he is, what his expectations are, all the way up until runes, build, setup, how to win and stomp your lane, and also how to carry in the mid game. I also just released a 4-hour Sylas unranked to master video on my YouTube channel, which I heavily recommend you guys to check out because I explain my thought process playing the champion and how to win in different game states from A to Z. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. Enjoy, guys. But we're going to start off with who is Sylas. Sylas is a classic skirmish-oriented melee mid laner. A mouthful. He is a really good fighter, and he's really good at punishing enemy mistakes by taking trades onto them and making them sweat, putting them in kill threat. We will also be teaching Sylas, and the game is generally taught through the lens of fighting on this champion. We also call him the chameleon, right? Every single ult changes his identity and changes the way that he can actually play out fights. So the skill cap of this champion is therefore also incredibly high because you're going to be doing a different thing every single game, and figuring out what that thing is generally quite challenging. So Sylas is the perfect secondary carry. Sylas is not that good of a 1v9 oriented champion. He's really good because he has high burst, high base damages, a lot of mobility, but he doesn't quite fit the build to 1v9 games and fights. The reality is, his cooldowns are too long for that. He's a burst oriented champ, not a DPS oriented champ. And that means that you're really going to struggle if you're the only carry. You want to do it together with someone else in your team. Having that multi-trap available is going to allow you to really pop up on these fights and not be the only one that's being targeted down. So what can you expect whenever you're going to be locking Sylas? Each game will play out differently, and you'll have to adapt towards your role as in the game. Mainly because of the fact that every ult is going to be different. Right? There's a lot of different ways to play out fights depending on what ults that you get and also who your ring condition is. So it's going to be quite a tricky one getting the hang of that. Micro execution also plays a really big part in winning or losing key fights. Landing the E on Sylas can sometimes be quite tricky. His Q usage can sometimes be quite tricky. You're a champ that's very committal. You go in and there's basically no way out. So it means that if you go in at the wrong time, you're going to get yourself killed as well. He also is a champ that can sometimes feel very uncomfortable to play. Some people hate this champ because he needs to be low health. He needs to trade and make the game messy. And that means that sometimes, if you don't feel comfortable playing with that playstyle, laning on Sylas can get very tricky. And not only lane, but also playing in specific fights. Bruisers murder Sylas. Champs with stick, but like Blade Rune King, champs are good at taking extended trades, lethal tempo abusers, bruisers in general, they have a bit of MR. They annihilate Sylas, especially in the 1v1 in the side. He doesn't have proper escape tools. Yes, he has a lot of mobility. His W is a bit of mobility. His E gives a little bit of mobility, but it's not really good escape tools because it's mainly go in mobility and not go out mobility. And if you really want to get consistent on this champ, just fighting won't be enough. You have to have a very good level of win con assessment to consistently win games on this champion. And this is really the hardest part of Sylas. This is why a lot of people are struggling on it. This is also why we don't recommend Sylas to players below Emerald. He differs in identity every single game, and therefore consistently winning games on him, there's not really a way to go about it. Sylas skills with game understanding. The better you're at the game, the better you are going to be at Sylas because it's easier for you to find these win conditions. If you're below Emerald, I don't recommend Sylas for you. You don't have that level of game understanding just yet. You also are going to really struggle because you're not a primary carry, you're a secondary carry. So when games are going to be played out where it's sometimes quite hard to be that secondary carry, you're going to feel insanely useless. And this champ is just a nightmare for any players below Emerald. Before we go any further, guys, if you guys want to get coached by me or want to see more educational Sylas content or just simply want to get results, check out the link in the description. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. We're going to be moving on towards the rune section of the guide, and there's two main pages that we're going to be running. Electrocute and Conqueror. So when do we take which? Well, it really depends on how we want to be fighting and trading, depending upon which ultimates we have available, how our team composition looks, and how the enemy team composition looks. If the fights are going to be fast and bursty, go Electrocute. Same in the lane, if the trades are going to go fast and bursty, go Electrocute. If the game is going to be slower, more scaling oriented, longer oriented fights, go Conqueror. Generally, the Conqueror page is a little bit more, it's a little bit better in scaling that it gives. All these pages give much better scaling stats. Well, Electrocute is just a lot stronger in the early game with your upfront raw base damage that you get, but it doesn't scale quite that well. So based upon that, I want you to make a decision what you can be choosing. Whenever we run Conqueror, right, it's really good in a little bit more extended fights. So if we can get a lot of W rotations off, this also pairs up with a lot of CDR usually. And this gives you a lot of flat damage, which is what Sylas loves with his high base damages. For the secondary page, we will be opting in for usually Second Wind or Bone Plating with Overgrowth. If you play versus a range champ, go Second Wind. If you play versus a champ that struggles trading upon you with trading patterns and struggles proccing off your Bone Plating, go Bone Plating. A lot of melee champs, Bone Plating is good into Fizz, Ekko, call it like that. And in the champs that are able to proc it off or poke you a little bit more, Second Wind is usually a little bit better. Usually I like to opt in for flat health because Sylas definitely wants to put a little bit more pressure in the lane. But if you have a very easy matchup, you can also opt in for a scaling health as well. For Electrocute setup as well, like these is purely preference right here. This is pretty set. And I think for this one, it's also preference between Relentless and potentially Ultimate and Treasure. It really depends on what you prefer and how you like to play it. That's it really. The main thing you really want to understand is that whenever you pick your runes on Sylas, is the way that you want to be trading is massively going to depend on the runes that you're going to be picking. So definitely pick your runes with intention, which one of the two am I picking, and also adapt your trading patterns towards it. When it comes to Sylas build, you can make it as complicated as you want, but we're just going to start off with the El Clasico Sylas build that you cannot really go wrong with. And this is Doran's Ring Start into Protobelt, into Cosmic Drive, into like either Zonias or Banshees, depending on what you need versus the enemy team. Why is this a build that's generally good? Well, it gives Sylas a lot of stats that he likes. He likes a lot of HP, he gets some haste in between, he gets some flat AP, and it's allowing him to take these a little bit more, sloppy oriented fights. It gives him a lot of mobility because he gets also a lot of haste, and he can actually commit because of the fact that he gets defensive stats and a potential Zonias or Banshees to back it up with as well. So the main thought process that I go into the game with whenever I'm building on Sylas is, how are the fights going to play out? Are they going to be bursty, or are they going to be taking a little bit longer? If the fights are going to be playing out bursty, Protobelt is usually the best option. And then you can go into either Cosmic Drive or Shadow Flame, depending on how the game state is restive. If you're solo AP, Shadow Flame is a really good complement. If you're not solo AP or the enemies are bound to be building some MR, Cosmic Drive is a really good complement. And when it comes to Riftmaker, because Protobelt isn't always a good item. You can also opt in for Riftmaker every once in a while. And that's when the fights are going to be taking a little bit longer. And you don't necessarily need the dashing part of the active part of the Protobelt for it to be making sense. So in those games, we can actually opt in for Cosmic Drive into Riftmaker or Riftmaker into Cosmic Drive. It doesn't really matter. When the fights are going to be slower, they're going to be a little bit more extended than the Cosmic Drive is. The Riftmaker is really, really good. And then also we go defensive third. Sylas usually runs defensive third. We can then finish it off with either Void Staff or Rabadons, depending on what we need. If the enemies have a lot of MR, we go Void. If the enemies do not run MR, Rabadons is really, really nice as well. And Sylas generally loves sitting on the Dark Seal. Dark Seal is going to be a core part of our build as well. We're always going to be buying them. As our first base, ideally we opt in for Dark Seal, Refill, and Tome. If we cannot get these, Dark Seal Refill will also do the job completely fine. And when it comes to the boots that we're going to be running on Sylas, it's mainly going to be either Sorcery Shoes or a defensive boot. Potentially Tabis is also an option if the enemies have a lot of AD auto attackers. Same mindset. If you're solo AP or the enemies are not going to build a lot of MR, Sorks is incredibly strong with your high base damage. But otherwise, you can also opt in for Mercs if the enemies have a lot of magic resist. Usually 60%, 70% of the games, I actually will be opting in towards Sorks. So we're moving on to Sylas' skill order. This is where it's going to get a little bit more tricky, because your skill order, understanding when to pick what, is going to massively influence the way that you're going to be trading. So if you don't know what to take, right, and if you don't know anything about Sylas' skill order, This skill order that we mentioned right here is cookie cutter. You can just paste it every game and you're going to be fine. You're going to be completely fine if you do this. So what's this? It's 2 points Q into W max into E max, then finish Q. That's the idea behind the skill order. Why do we put 2 points Q? Well, it allows you to clear the wave with an Amp Dome or a Dark Seal at 2 Qs in a row. So that's allow you to give a little bit more wave control while also then upgrading your skirmishing power to the W max. That's the idea behind this leveling up order. So now there's a lot of other options besides just E start into Q. There's a lot of other options. And one of the things is that you can also put 3 points Q instead of 2 points Q into W max, we can do 3 points Q into W max. What's the idea behind this one? Well, if you are playing versus a long range mage, which is just really hard for you to use your W, you want to be mainly playing around with your Q, and that's how the trades will be happening. Then you want to be opting in for the 3 points Q. Besides that, we can also take Q or W at level 2. Usually we're going to be opting in for E level 1. E or Q level 1 can both happen, right? If you want to play chill and not interact, you go for Q level 1 instead of E. But in 80% of the matchups, we do want to be interacting. We want to fish for an E, getting an early good trade-off. That's why we take E level 1. But when do we put Q or W level 2 after we take E level 1? It depends on how the trading patterns will go. If you're going to get yourself pushed in, it's going to be hard for you to use that W on top of the enemies. Get yourself the Q. It's also easy to farm with the Q. But if you are heavy trading and you're on a really good spot, definitely put that extra point into the W at level 2, because the W is a slightly stronger trading ability, especially if we can get on top of the enemies. That's the mindset behind Sylas maxing order. Always put 2 points in Q, because this massively helps our wave clear and control in the lane. Next up, we got ourselves the summoner spells. So very classical summoner spells. We've seen it on most champs. We're always going to be rushing Flash. Flash is just the most versatile spell out there, and TP as well, right? It helps us with the opportunities to reset our resources in the lane, which is definitely going to be necessary in a lot of matchups. Because we're going to be trading heavy and it's going to be quite chaotic. But the most important thing is that it gives us flexibility into the mid game, in which that we can then get good angles of fights, create man advantages, push tempo, stuff like that. And usually we don't necessarily need Ignite in any of the matchups anyway. So this is generally the most consistent way to go about it. So we're going to be doing a little bit of an ult tier list. And no, we're not going to be running by every single ultimate. We're going to do a few noteworthy ones, of course. But just to give you guys a little bit of a clean understanding of what you can expect for whenever you take which ult. And there are specific reasons why all of these ults are good. Sometimes it's the ratios, sometimes it's the actual effect. For example, the Alistar ult on Sylas is absolutely insane, let alone Malphite, Amumu. These are crazy, crazy ultimates that Sylas can play around with. But there's also ults that are completely dog shit, that actually actively hurt you. So it's really good to keep in mind what you can and cannot pick whenever you're playing Sylas. And that's a certain set of champions that whenever you see this in draft are generally really good for us to play around with our ultimates. So a few noteworthy mentions, right, is Malphite's ult is insanely good on Sylas because of the high AP scaling on top of it, and because of the fact that it gives Sylas that extra engage option that can, that extra mobility option that can just annihilate every single AD carry from the game. Alistar ult, damage reduction on a sustained bruiser like Sylas is absolutely insane. Very similar as to Amumu ult, high AP ratios, AoE, CC, really easy for Sylas to get in and do his stuff, which means that Sylas with Amumu ult, absolutely crazy. Fiddlesticks. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen the AP ratios on Fiddlesticks are, but that's an absolute nuke when it comes to adding Sylas' mobility towards that. Very similar to GPR, AP ratios, very, very high. Karthus R, because it's so easy to use and so much damage as well. Rakan R, with the extra movement speed and the ability to charm everyone in a fight that allows Sylas to get in on the right position and get his damage off. Swain R speaks for itself. AoE, with the mobility that Sylas has, can always keep this Swain R alive whenever there's a fight. Really hard to kill. And Udyr because of the high AP ratios as well, where you can stick to the enemies, and then if you recast it, the amount of damage that you're going to be dealing with that R is really, really high. Very similar to other ults in the game, like the RER, the SR, the classic, very strong ultimates for Sylas to be playing around with. If you ever find yourself in a position like this for Sylas, you're in an insanely good spot in which that you can always play out the game. Even ults in here are just generally very, very decent, like the Maokai, the Akali. The amount of versatility and options that you get with a lot of these ults are generally really, really good. The main things you got to keep in mind is that ults that are mainly going to be in this tier right here, these are generally ones that you don't really want to be picking up. If we look at what Sylas's options are, is generally we got a lot of ults that we can actually play around with in the game. So there's going to be very limited situations that are absolutely unplayable for you. But if you find yourself in this category, you're going to be in the Sylas Valhalla. We're going to be moving on to the lane section of the guide, and Sylas approaches the lane a little bit differently than most classical mid lane champs. The main reason why that's the case is because he's a melee mid laner that doesn't necessarily play with D-Shield second wind. Sylas is a champ that plays a little bit with threat and kill threat and trading threat. And he wins his lane, or he plays out the lane, by using his offense as his defense with his strong trading tools. Sylas needs to trade. You gotta get messy in this lane. And you gotta also be comfortable and doing that and finding the right positions to do so, or you will bleed out and you will feel very, very useless. So we want to be forcing the war of attrition and play on kill threats. What do I mean with this? Play on health and kill threats. It can be quite a vague concept for people. Well, if you are playing with 50% HP as a Syndra versus a Sylas with 50% HP, as Syndra, you are in trouble because Sylas only has to land 1 E and you drop from 50 to 0. While as Sylas, you're chilling because you're not under that kill threat. Syndra can at max to 25% of your HP bar. That's why trading even is usually good for Sylas. And his kill threat ranges are very, very high. I'm not so sure if someone watched firsthand, but you saw APA get one-shot by Cream Sylas from 60% HP. APA had a pot in his inventory. He didn't pop it because he thought he would be fine, but he just got absolutely one-shot, and Sylas didn't even use his Q. Crazy, crazy kill ranges. Generally, we want to make the lane a little bit messy. We want to fight a little bit, but we don't want to lose sight of enemy threat. So we don't want to blindly go in, because we will instantly lose a lane or a game by going in the wrong time. It's instantly over. There's no way back as well in the isolated 1v1. If you go back in at the wrong time, you will lose. You will get annihilated. And from that point, you'll get stat checked in the lane. You'll get pushed in all the time. No prio, no way to play. Game is going to be fucking horrible. So this is going to happen. You are going to go in at bad times. You are going to get yourself backed up by an enemy champion hovering. You're going to get yourself baited. You're going to lose a game of it. Learn from it. Figure out, look at it from the enemy perspective, why it happens, and then try again in the next game. So reset on at least Dark Seal or Refill. Like, the lane's going to be messy, but we definitely want to get a Dark Seal. Like, that base stats from that item heavily helps us in the lane. If we can get an M-Tome with it as well, if the lane is slightly slower, that's amazing too. We want to be actively looking to skirmish on the map, and we want to use our mental stack to track our jungle. Wherever our jungle is going, that's where we want to be complementing him, because usually the jungles are like the playmakers in the game. So if you can preemptively be closer towards the play, you can look for these skirmishes a lot earlier and a lot better, which is going to allow you to participate in the game and play towards your identity a little bit better. If you want to take it to the next level, and this is especially going to be a little more higher elo focused guide, so this is definitely a good one to keep in mind, is you want to also synchronize your wave with your jungler's tempo. This is very, very hard, but if you're able to put the mental stack towards it, this will level up your gameplay, because this means that you're going to be playing safe, or at least not too dangerous whenever your jungle is on downtime, so whenever you got no backup, which is going to prevent you from inting a lot of games. And that means that you're going to be playing aggressive when your jungle is ready to play, and it means that you can force these skirmishes a lot better. It's a massive, massive thing, and definitely worth investigating and putting like extra attention to if you want to be really taking your Sylas to the next level. Whenever you're getting towards the later part of the lane, level 6 or something like that, you really want to start identifying a win condition already. Usually this is something that you do a little bit later in the lane, but on Sylas it's very important that you pick your right fights and avoid the bad fights. So figure out where you're strong, play on those fights, and actively avoid fights that are bad, because once you're behind, this champion struggles. So since Sylas is so bound to his trading in the lane, we're going to give you guys some trading tips for you guys to understand and take with you whenever you're going to be going into a lane. So first of all, always what you want to be doing is you want to be visualizing the trading patterns of the matchup that you're going to be playing in. If you're unsure about this, watch high elo VODs, compare the trading patterns, right? But actively think about it and visualize them in your head. This is going to solve you a lot of issues. A really good example is, for example, Yasuo. Yasuo is one of these champs that if we go our E2 deep onto Yasuo, we have no way to get out. He's going to chase us down the long lane. We're going to get ourselves killed because we cannot take extended trades. For Yasuo, for example, you want to do W in, E out trades. While if you're playing, for example, versus a Victor, it's completely fine if you go a little bit deeper, because what's going to happen is that you're going to land your combo. Victor's going to do a burst trade to you back, but what's going to happen is that he's not going to be in the position where he can really chase you down. So feel free to extend the trades a little bit more into Victor comparatively towards the Yasuo. So visualize it, compare it, and have a hypothesis. And always, if you're unsure, you get absolutely smashed, go online, type in 3 or 4 VODs of the matchup, and just look at the trading patterns and how the pros and the high elo players do it. Also understand that you want to know whenever you want to be taking extended or short trades. Have an idea of it. This is also something that we can actively think about with our rune setup, but more importantly, it's about how we use our E2. Can we use our E2 forward, or do we have to use our E2 to potentially get away? We can also sometimes like E1 forward, W trade, and then E2 out onto minions. That's something that can work as well. Very creative way of going about the trading patterns. Not something that you'll use very, very often, but if you find the right spot for it, it can enable you for some extra trading patterns. Another thing to really keep in mind is that you can, whenever you E1 forward, you can decide to either use Q or E2 to get close upon the enemies. What's the thought process behind this one? If your goal is to get a maximum damage trade, the best thing to do is to try to land the E2 first, and you can then Q afterwards, make it hard for the enemies to escape with the Q behind them. And you can then get yourself the maximum damage combo. But if your goal is to just land the E2, if just landing the E2 is enough, then you can opt in for a Q to get the slow and then land your E2. Make it easier, because it can be as a little bit of a zone control tool, or the CC from the slow is going to make it easier for you to land your E2. Very important to keep in mind. We don't want to blindly trade onto the enemies, guys. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see, is people try to go in at the wrong times. You want to time your aggression with last hits, and this is an absolute game changer. Less is more in this case. Getting that one good trade is a lot better than getting this average trade and getting hit quite hard back in return. So if you time your aggression with last hits very, very well, you're going to overwhelm the enemy mental stack, they're going to be forced into bad positions, and that's when you can get this big, big chunk, while also having it hard for them to hit back at you. There's some other tips that we're going to be needing to apply. Is that we are going to need to get creative and do some advanced trading tips in our repertoire. Otherwise, we're going to be in a pretty tricky position against most champs. We first of all need to sometimes drop CS. Actively use creeps and use your health to play for as a resource to get in a good position on the lane. There's going to be a lot of situations where you've already cleared the first 3 melee minions, and there's still 3 ranged creeps alive. Sometimes you want to just drop a ranged creep, and when the enemy is going for last hit, you just want to just trade onto them, get the damage off, because later down the line we can invest that, sacrifice that we made on that minion to get more lane control back, which means we get easy access towards all the minions while zoning the enemies off. Another thing that Sylas is really good at is countering trading windows. What does that mean? Well, Sylas has quite a bit of AoE, either in his Q and is in his auto attacks, in his passive. So one thing that you can do is whenever you need to last hit, you can angle yourself in such a way that if this is the last hit that you need to hit and the enemy is behind here, what we can then do is we can then walk up, stand right here and look for a high value Q, CSing the minion and hitting the enemies right there. A very similar situation is if this is the minion and this is the enemy and they're standing very close to each other, you can actually, if you're standing right here, you can E forward AoE by hitting the enemy and also getting the creep and then clearing the way for your E to actually hit the enemies. These are all tricks that you can use. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at an example of a lane in which that I use a lot of these trading fundamentals onto this Ekko right here. So we're going to be starting off as this is a melee matchup, right, in which we want to be trying to play a little bit for. This specific matchup is a matchup that we win short bursty trades because we got regeneration and he does not. So we're going to be playing a little bit more short and bursty into him. And one thing that I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to find a nice E angle on top of him in the early game. So you see that I'm waiting for him to make a mistake. He's using his cooldown. He started W because of a bit of an invade position. He's using his cooldown and now his cooldown is down. I can potentially look to trade onto him. So I try to fish, but I think what happens right here is that in this situation, I think I rushed the trade. And the main reason why I rushed the trade is now none of these minions will be dying. I need to wait for these minions to die, force them to walk up. I rush the trade. I don't get my E2 off because it's too close to the turret. And it puts me in a position where I could have gotten a little bit more here in this lane. So really good learning already onto the first wave. And that means that this minions right here, it's quite easy for him to hit. Even though I do a really nice job recognizing that that's my window to trade onto him. And I auto-attack him back. So right here, I'm the level 2. I zone him off these minions right here. And right now, I recognize that I'm not going to be overplaying it onto the wave right here. Going to be nicely pushing the wave, get a nice little ward window out. And now we're going to try to continuously take trades into this guy. So we got the wave coming out a little bit more towards neutral here again. And I know for sure that if I find a trading opportunity onto him, I need to take it. He uses his Q right here. We can potentially, by baiting out his ability right here, use this cooldown to take a little bit of a trade. And I'm just waiting for him to make a little bit of a mistake, get too close to the minions, and find a nice trading opportunity onto him. So you see that I'm not going too far. And this is the first time right here where like he's just slowly dropping minions. He's not getting into a position where he is... where he's overreaching yet for the minions. Really nice Q onto the last hit right here. Look at what I do is I Q whenever he's walking up to get access to the minions. I wait out his W, and what happens right here is that now he's behind the wave. I can potentially trade onto him right here. This is a very good option to trade onto him. Why do I not trade onto him right here? Belvev is potentially in the back. I don't have proper information on the Belvev. So right now he actually eats forward. I take a nice short little burst trade, prevent him from getting his passive, and I purely punish his mistakes. As you can see, I'm not brute forcing a trade in this case. I'm playing it nice and conservative. In this case, I placed 2 points in W right here because I feel comfortable that I can now play off a kill potentially on top of him. So what do I do on this next minion? You see that I Q onto the cannon. I spotted that he uses his abilities, but I'm not overly committing. Belvev now shows bot. So this is my time to go very, very, very aggressive right here because I know where the enemies are. So I go for a nice high value. I try to go for a nice high value E, which that I CS the minions right here and potentially hit next to the wave. But the wave unfortunately blocks it and I don't kill him. Look at this Q, zoning him off the minions right here. Really pressuring the resources, pressuring the CS. Wave sits now nicely up back to neutral. We're taking very favorable trades right here. And we're going to be rinse and repeating this. Nice little Q onto the last hit. Look how this Q is timed. This is not a random Q. This Q is timed on the last hit. I tried to have a high value Q on top of him where I also kill the minion. But unfortunately, I missed it. This is really important. If you go in here in this spot without information on Belvev, you will die. You will instantly lose the lane. So look at the poise, look at the patience. I'm not brute forcing anything right here. I'm waiting for him to be in a bad position, waiting for me to be safe. And then I'll potentially take the trade. So Belvev is now potentially away. You see that I'm fishing for an E right here, but I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just playing to make sure that he messes up right now. And I got myself a nice slow pushing wave state, leaning towards bot side. And you see that I'm just slowly playing the war of attrition into this guy. And if I ever find myself a good angle, I can potentially look to kill. So, bit of an opportunistic Q right there. We're going to be clearing the wave. And afterwards, we're going to get ourselves a nice little warding window towards bot. And we're going to be rinse and repeating this entire situation. Sylas loves neutral wave state. Because whenever there's a neutral wave state, you have the potential to E past the caster minions and fish for an E onto the enemies right here. So this is a beautiful wave state that you have. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to wait for him to mess up. And then I'll potentially look to harass him onto a time where he actually walks up for a creep. or whenever I can see a good angle, wherever I'm also safe. So you see I'm just nicely playing the resource bar right here. I'm looking, I'm not finding it yet. And here the minion's dying, he's walking up. Beautiful high value E into a nice little E on top of him next to the minion wave, which is then allowing me to get this nice little solo kill onto the Ekko. So you see how patient I am, how I'm timing with my aggression with last hits, making sure that I'm not taking crazy risks and going in at times where there's enemies potentially hovering, because that's a very fast way to instantly lose the game on Sylas. I hope this guy gives you guys a little bit of input on what my mindset is whenever I'm looking for these trades, because it generally is a really important thing that you take high percentage trades in this case as well. Of course, there's sort of lanes where you want to be taking a little bit more messy. We're going to be taking a look at that in the lane examples as well, where we got to slightly spice it up a little bit more. But it's a good baseline foundation to start off with. All right, for this first lane example, we're going to be taking a look at a lane versus Syndra. This is going to be your classic lane that you're going to be playing versus ranged matchups. And in this particular game, I've decided to opt in for an electrocute rune page. Why do I do that? Well, if you look at both my team composition and the enemy team composition a little bit later down the line, you see that the fights are going to be playing out quite fast. And therefore, I'm going to be opting in for electrocute because it's a little bit stronger in the lane and it allows me to play a little bit more burst oriented in the fights. So we have a very interesting invade from the Pantheon, which I nicely get myself the first blood on, but I do lose access to 2 minions of experience, unfortunately. So we're in a lane state where, now, of course, I'm a little bit ahead in gold, but in the lane, it's quite even. One of the things that I like to do versus these type of mages is, right, just be a little bit careful on the first 3 creeps, but after the first 3 creeps die, you can just go behind the minions and look and fish for an E. It's very important that you fish for an E, because if you can get the E off, that's going to put you in an amazing position in the lane. And you see that I sometimes get in those extra auto attacks in here as well, because I am very happy trading a little bit more heavily, trading a little bit more messily as well, because the slightly messier the lane is, the better it is for me. In this case, I'm going to be taking W level 2 because I feel confident I can potentially get in another E onto the Syndra with this wave state. You see with my positioning, I'm not too far away from her that I don't incentivize her to W, but I do try to like bait out her Q. And whenever her Q is down, that's a great trading opportunity for me to potentially land my spell. Unfortunately, I missed my E. It was a pretty good attempt. I could have potentially also held the E. That's one of the things that you see that I do with this first one as well. I don't insta throw it because she's trying to juke it out. So I throw it at a good time where I feel like I have the highest percentage landing it. When it comes to the wave state, right? The most important thing that you want to do whenever you're laning on Sylas is just don't get your wave frozen upon. So one of the things that I do right here is I intentionally don't clear this minion fast because of the fact that this minion needs to be cleared late. Otherwise the wave gets frozen on Syndra's side and I'm done for with the lane. The most important thing is don't get your wave frozen. If you slow build to the enemies, great. If you get slow build upon, also completely okay. The more neutral the wave state is, the better it is for Sylas. Sylas loves a neutral wave state. So what I do, knowing that information with the wave states, I hard nuke this minion wave and I'll just nicely tempo reset and come back towards the lane. Why? Because I'm in an okay spot where I can reset. I had my nice level 1 kill and I took a lot of damage when it comes to some of the trades that I took. So now I'm going to try to keep this wave state a little bit more neutral. So slightly on my side or potentially in such a way that I can slightly slow build into Syndra. So one of the things I do right here is I intentionally hold these minions right here outside of the turret. This was very intentional wave management. Look what happens to the next wave. It gets closed up towards my side. So this puts me in a position where I can easily get past the minions and now look for trades onto the Syndra. And you see that I initially don't fully commit with my E right here because this is not a good time. She's got bone plating, right? She's going to reset real soon anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just Q her, hold the wave outside of my turret, and now she's in the position where she's forced to stay. So right now, because I can easily go past the minion wave right here, look at that, I almost 100 to 0 her. That's insane. This champ's crazy. This champ's nuts, dude. And I almost 100 to 0 her. If I flash over her E here, I'm pretty sure that I will actually just kill her. And the trick here is that I go for the E1 into the E2 and look at this Q placement behind her, which means we land both parts of it. And if I actually flash this, I kill her with the next passive auto. These passive autos deal a lot of damage, guys. Don't sleep on the passive autos. They deal an insane amount of damage. That's where a lot of damage actually comes from. So now we're in this beautiful wave state, which we are going to be slow pushing out right here. We still got high resources, so we don't necessarily need to take a reset ourselves. And we see a little bit of a skirmish happening in the jungle. I know that for a fact that this Pantheon is in a position where we can easily collapse onto him. So that's what we do, because I know that he has no flash. We're really happy looking for these type of skirmishes. And the main way that I'm so quick at recognizing it is because I'm keeping my eyes on what my jungle is doing. Look how fast I respond towards the action happening in the jungle. I'm instantly there. The sooner I can there, even though my wave state sucks, I know that's high percentage because Pantheon has no flash. And this is exactly the type of play that you want to be making whenever you're playing Sylas. Bad wave state here. What we're going to do is we're going to put 2 points in Q to have a little bit more wave control. And we're going to try to nuke the wave in this position. So Syndra used her abilities right here, which means that we can now freely crash in this wave and then nicely back off. So since we got red buff, we don't necessarily need to take a reset right now. And we got ourselves a neutral wave state. And what you can do with the neutral wave state is you can sometimes walk past the enemies right here. What a very smart thing that I do right now is I walk in from the side. So potentially you can even E to the side and then get on top of them. This is really hard for most of the champs to deal with. Another thing you can do is instead of walking through here, you can actually walk through here when the enemies are trying to hit the wave. Very, very powerful way of getting on top of these longer range champs that are usually trying to play defensive. So I use my E to dodge out onto the Syndra. Nice little Bluetooth Eve. And look at this position. She is in a horrible, horrible state right now in the lane. And I still got myself my flash. So that puts me in a spot where right here, onto the next minion, I go for a high value E. And potentially that would have been a nice Bluetooth E hitting there right there. If that hits, she dies. You see how I'm approaching the traits in this lane. It's very, very powerful. Constantly towards a proper wave state. And what we're doing right now is we're now thinning up the minions with this Q to try a very similar thing. So we can now potentially look for a high value E. She uses her E. And what we can do is we can now look for high value E to potentially kill her. So you may be wondering, hey Tim, why don't you all in the Syndra right here? Well, she's got no flash, right? I've got myself my all my abilities up. I got flash, she used her E. Is she not dead? Potentially, absolutely. She has bone plating though. I don't know where the Pantheon is. So I'm a little bit hesitant in this spot. I'm not in a bad position right here. If we trade 1 for 1, it's good for her because of the fact that she's in a bad spot and I am not. So I'm actually waiting a little bit right here. And guess who's there? Pantheon and the Yuumi. So both of these guys were actually hovering and I figured that out. And that means that I put myself in a position right now where otherwise I would have just gotten myself killed. So I pick up the Yuumi art, not knowing what it does. And then I get pretty pleasantly surprised by how shit it is on this champion, actually. So we're now in a position where Syndra is going to be taking the reset. Or at least she's attempting to take the reset. I'll just take the reset eventually myself because I had a beautiful wave state. I can now deny her a lot of minions right here. I could have potentially also stayed. It's a little bit of what you value in that case. I think staying also is also completely fine. But we're now in a position where we can potentially play from the neutral wave state again. And yeah, look to go into the Syndra again. You see how bad that the Yuumi R is. Deals low damage. And it locks you out of the rest of your spells. So it's actually really, really, really bad. And now with this wave state, it's slowly pushing into Syndra. Look how I nuke it. I'll make sure that my wave never gets frozen onto her side. It's the most important thing. And now we can play off a neutral wave state again. Look at how I'm positioning. And we're fishing for these E's. Why is this E fish not that good? None of her creeps are dying. I'm rushing it. If she is focused on hitting the creep while I'm in the fog of war, that's when I'm in a position where I will more likely than not hit the E because of the fact that her mental stack's occupied with something else and she's forced to walk forward. Very similar position. Melees are dead. We're looking for these high value E's through the minions. And what you see is right here, we land this beautiful trading combo and proccing over bone plating, forcing her onto a reset once again so I can nuke the wave. And we're now just getting in this nice, clean lead by proper trading into this matchup. So we're really getting into a good spot right now. We want to be looking to get towards our Protobelt. Protobelt's a really good game, really good buy this game because of the fact that the plays and the trades are going to be quite fast. And Protobelt allows you to potentially, if you ever hit your E2 onto Syndra, dash behind her to dodge out on her E. Another thing you can do with Protobelt is you can get in range into these range champs, E1, Proto Belt, E2, and it's a lot of times that they don't see the rage coming. So you see how creative you can get with your trading patterns right here. One thing I do is I try to go for high value E onto the Syndra right here, and I W away to dodge out on the Syndra E. That's something you can do. I just wanted to proc the bone plating. One thing I should do in this state is I should actually not use nuke the wave. I should actually freeze a little bit more towards my side. I think that's a little bit better to do in this case. Hold it a little bit close towards my side so I extend the lane even more so I can get even better trading patterns into the Syndra. But yeah, there's also arguments that you want to just play up more aggressively and not lose prio. That's also completely fine. In this case, I trade very aggressively. I look for the reset and I get myself the Proto Belt, and it puts me in an amazing position here in the lane. And from this point, we're just going to be laser focusing on our Eve. Where's our Eve? Complement the Eve, play with the Eve, and start skirmishing to win the game. Next to the lane we're going to be looking at is Sylas versus Katarina. And this is a pretty classic melee matchup for us, in the sense that the matchup is it's slightly Sylas favored, but the main thing that we got to go into in a matchup like this is understand how the trading patterns work. And the reality is that the trading patterns versus Katarina shift depending on what type of setup that she takes. If she goes Electrocute, short bursty trades. This guy goes Conqueror Ignite. What do we know about Conqueror Ignite Katarina? Kill threat on the all-in is through the fucking roof. It's just really, really, really high. So we, especially with the setup that we opted in for, which is Electrocute, because the enemies are quite squishy, that's why I opted in for that, I will be really wanting to slow the short burst rates. That's just the main thing. Just short burst rates. That's all I need to do. And in this situation, that's also the way that we're going to be approaching it. So we got a nice little play right here onto the level 1, in which that I got a nice little flash onto the Ekko. Maokai is also in the area. We get the lane swap detected right here. I ping him off. We share XP, so it's a messy early lane. That's sometimes what you get, what you'll have to find with Sylas, that this just gonna get very messy. Invading on Sylas is also very, very common, so you'll find yourself with a lot of level 1 KOs. Generally though, we're in a position where in this lane, I want to be taking short bursty trades into her, and I want to get up the level 2 and make sure that I hit it at the same time on her, and then I'm going to be trying to trade on top of her. So this is a really good position. I get myself the level 2. I know she needs to answer to the minions right here. So what do? I nicely trade onto her behind the minions. I hold my E2. I E out attack, W out attack, E2 out attack, getting all of the passive procs, and I run away. She's got Conquer. I don't have Conquer. Her Conquer is now gone, which means I can instantly look to pressure again, understanding my trading patterns. I will not win if she has Ignite and she has Conquer available, so I got to be very, very careful right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to slow push the wave back in, and I'm going to try to put myself in a position where I can take another good trade onto this Katarina. So we now reach ourselves the level 3 right here, which is amazing. And I'm going to now try to dive the kata on this big stacked wave. It's not easy. So what I do is I'm waiting until the right moment. So the only way that this dive works out is if I land E2. So let's take a look at how I approached my ability usage right here. Because I approach this in a way that I take 0 risks for the dive, and it will always work out. So I actually hold my E. I don't auto-attack her right here, because then I'll take tower aggro. So I need to start off with my E2 without doing anything else. And once I hit my E2, that's when I can combo the rest, proc the Electrocute, and get out. So I hold everything, hold. And then once the E2 lands, instant combo with the Electrocute, and we trade kills 1 for 1, which is really worth for me with this wave state and her having Ignite, no TP. So this was very good mechanical execution. If you do not have very good mechanical execution, this won't work out. So really good stuff. Wave's now bouncing back into us. We get double Amp Tome, Dark Seal. We're in a fantastic position right here. And now we will just completely take over the lane by taking good quality trades. That's the goal here in this case. So there's a little bit of shenanigans happening. My wave state's in a really bad spot for me to move. So I'm going to be trying to thin this out a little bit before actually committing to a little bit of a roam. And as I look down and I see, hey, play's pretty over. So I'm just going to put an extra point in Q. I'm just going to be pushing my wave, right? In a situation like that, where the wave stats super, super bad, and Katarina was already first, I'm not really going to be ruining my own lane for it. And I get myself a nice little plate. Katarina gets herself 3 kills on that bot roam. So she gets herself 3 kills, which is, of course, very, very nice for her. This evens the playing field a little bit more in mid lane. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to use the fact that we got this small experience lead here to once again take good quality traits into the Katarina. And I think right here, I start off with a really, really, really nice trait. What I do is whenever she goes in, Q out attack, W out attack. You see that the out attack's racking up a lot of damage. I think I slightly rushed the E. I think everything was perfect besides me rushing the E. But once again, we're in this amazing position where we took these short trades. I bait the Ekko in right now. And with the Elise around, we nicely get ourselves the kill. I try to go for a nice little E fish next to the minions, but Katarina gets out right here. So we're now nuking the wave, getting into a new position of resetting. And we just come back towards the lane in which that we're going to try to do the exact same thing. So look what I do to the minions right here. I hold 2 of these 2 minions alive. Why? That way the wave will slowly stack up towards my side right here, which will allow me to get a much longer lane and look for better E angles. If I land this E, right, it's really, really easy for me to like trade onto her. And the main reason why I'm able to even land this E is because of the fact that the minion wave is so close to my side, so I've got so much room in the lane to play on. And we're just going to nicely slow build out. And Sylas loves a slow build. A slow build towards the enemies is really good for us. We can fish for E's like this. I think I can time a little bit better with minions dropping low. This was, for example, a good attempt on the Q, otherwise she loses a creep. And we also have this beautiful slow build while the grubbies are being taken, which puts us in a position of just power. We can always move with this wave state. So we're trying to zone her off some creeps right here by aggressive posturing. I can potentially W in, E out. That's potentially what I'm looking for right here. And that's exactly what I'm doing. W in, E out, and we grab up the Ekko R because it's one of the stronger Rs that we can take. Katarina R, not that good for us on Sylas. So we take up the Ekko R whenever we can. And that puts us in a position of... where we can just now nicely take ourselves the reset onto the proto belt. And then after the reset, we're going to be using this Ekko ult very, very tactically to get back to the lane and cheat a little bit of tempo. So very smart uses of the Ekko R right there. I missed the cannon, El Clasico, Coach Kern is cannon right there. And we now get ourselves a free plate because of this nice tempo play with the reset. What are we going to be looking to do right now? We're going to be looking to get some control around mid lane, look to get some good quality trades, and then look to try to translate our pressure throughout the rest of the game by good quality skirmishing. So in this case, the Ekko gets too close to me. I get an amazing, amazing chunk on top of him. You see that in these type of situations, right? You as Sylas are just an absolute beast. Really good E usage right here, and it puts us in a position where eventually... I'm getting a little bit more chased here. I have to get out, and we use the E plus Protobelt to eventually get out, and we're completely fine. So you see that good fighting in this case goes a long way. If you just fight well, you're going to be in a very, very, very good position. But of course, like that is quite a bit of skill cap with that. So I'm going to now push the wave to try to get a little bit more of priority for my Elise that's onto the dragon. And since we've secured the dragon, I don't really see this as a winning fight with the Shen having TP. I'm just resetting, porting back, and we're going to be rinse and repeating the process, looking to get these good quality traits onto the Katarina. In this case, she's disrespecting quite heavily, going for the cannon. We have the Protobelt, and we get ourselves her flash for free. So really nice stuff. We now clear the wave, and we see that a skirmish is happening. So after clearing the wave, we attend to the skirmish. And this is also a really good spot for the skirmish for us to play it. So I play it not that well. I'm going to be elaborating why that is the case. After we play it out right here, it starts off just generally decent. This was pretty good as well, and we eventually get the kill. What was the issue in this case? I missed my E2. What should I do instead in this case? I should actually slow play it a little bit more. I think the E1 in this case is completely fine, but I should just pop the sweeper, know exactly where the Shen is, slow play, not throw the E2, use it as a threatening tool so the enemies juke themselves out, then actually commit to it later down the line. So we're now in a position where all we have to do is, what we're going to be doing is we're going to now look to skirmish with our Elise, since Elise is quite strong. We do the trick again where we move from the side lane bush after the enemy is now walking up. You see I time it with a creep this time, a lot better. And we nicely take ourselves a little bit of a short trade. We can be very disrespectful because of the fact that we're so much stronger and we just stat check her with all of the resources that we got. I think this got a little bit too close to comfort, but as you can see, we did in the end pull it off because of the fact that we are so strong. And we now nicely get ourselves a reset in which that we get easy lane control, into control of the top side. Katarina ult isn't that good for us, so I kind of want to get rid of it. That's why I bait the Shen into trading me. And then I W into Katarina R to get rid of it. And now we're in a pretty good spot right here. From this point, game is very easy. We're just going to be snowballing through good skirmishes. Good example of good trading patterns in the lane again. So for the next example, I want to continue a little bit with where we left off in the trading on Sylas section in which that we play versus Ekko. We're in this amazing position right now in the lane. And what we're going to do from this point is we're going to reset. We're going to buy ourselves some very strong items. You see that in this case, I'm opting in for a little bit of a different build. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to TP back towards mid lane. I'm going to be asking to play around the grubbies because I'm so incredibly strong. And we see that the Rel is moving towards mid. That's what we can see on the map. But the reality is, right, sometimes you miss stuff like that. So in this case, I heavily trade with the Sylas, knowing that the Rel and the Bel'Veth can be around. And even though I don't necessarily E forward, me just trading at this bad time, if you look at my support and my jungle, they're not in a position to cover me, while the enemies are in a very similar position where they can actually cover, puts me in a position where even though I dodge the Bel'Veth W and the Rel Q, I will still just absolutely die. And even if I Ekko R there, there's just no way out. I greed on my flash. I should flash a lot earlier. But this is one of these clear examples where if you just go in at the wrong time, you just cannot really get out. And this is the classic Sylas mistake, guys. This is something that we're going to see very, 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 very often in reviews, in which that one of these devs can just completely shape the game. And in this case, it brings Ekko back into the game and it feeds the enemy Bel'Veth. Bel'Veth is one of the worst champs for us to play against as Sylas because of the fact that Bel'Veth is one of these raw stat check mobile oriented champions that can just completely annihilate you if you make a mistake too much or just get too close to her. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to rinse and repeat. We have to give up the grubs because of me, and Ekko is now coming back for a reset, so we get ourselves a nice little plate, and we're looking to keep taking these good quality trades into Ekko right here. So especially with us having the Ekko R right now, we're going to be looking to take a nice quality trade on top of him, and we can potentially get out with the Ekko R, get some extra resources because that also heals. So you see that I'm looking for a high value ability into potentially the E, but in the end I cannot really take it. I think I could have just dove and then do a W into Ekko R, but in this case it's also completely fine. Looking for a nice high value Q. This was a really good Q because it gives me the push, and he was standing very close to the turret, so it puts me in a position where it's really easy for me to land. And we see once again this neutral wave state, which is so good for Sylas. And I really want to highlight the trading pattern in this one. Why do I not E forward? Well, Eing forward in this case is not really going to give me something, because I cannot E2 on top of him. So what I do is I just W on top of him and then E out so he cannot really hit me. If I E forward, I'm kind of stuck there, and the only way out is by E2ing onto a minion, which he can proc the passive and then be in a good spot. So I hold the E2, wait for him to slip up, and now we get this massive, massive trade on top of him because he disrespected my E2 cooldown. And this is what a lot of times will happen, guys, is that a lot of people will forget that you still have your E2 available and you throw it at last second. And they're actually going to get clipped by it. So feel free to sometimes also just hold E2. And people will just forget or like disrespect you that you still have it. Like the Ekko, and this puts him now in a position where he's in a lot of trouble here in the lane. So we'll look at the wave state right here. We're going to keep it a little bit more neutral. I'm pressuring him off the creeps. I'm not making rash decisions. I have no information on Bel'Veth right now. This is also a live commentary that I get if you guys want to understand my thought process in this situation. So I'm not brute forcing trades on him right now because there's a chance that Bel'Veth's around. And I now spot the Bel'Veth on top. So that means that onto this next wave state, I'm going to try to put a little bit more pressure onto this Ekko right now. So that's exactly what I'm doing. E forward, looking for the double hit on top of him, and we eventually get him with the flash W onto our second rotation. Really calculated gameplay in this case. I know now exactly where the Bel'Veth is, so I can actually go for the trade. comparatively to what we happened before. But, guys, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're always safe. There's still these champions like Belvev that you cannot dash away for. And in this situation, this is exactly what happens. The Belvev gets close towards me, and I'm in this position right now where she kills me. Brutal death. Big int. So definitely be careful of the enemy jungle. Be careful of the enemy threat, because you will die, as you can see. So, next situation. Very nice play from the Nautilus right here. We're instantly back towards trading, queuing up on the multi-threat and getting ourselves a free kill with a free Ekko R. Now we're going to be doing some pushing. And look at the plays happening on top. I'm slightly complementing the play. But in the end, I recognize the play is over. I ping for the grubbies right now. Slightly complementing bot. But it looks also like bot's over. So I'm not going bot. And I'm just going back to mid. So I'm just hovering. When I push the wave or something like that, I'm just half roaming. Looking for opportunities, but not doing something crazy. In this case, I know that the enemy Belvev is bot. So I am happy going for a nice little trading pattern. A nice little Bluetooth E onto the Ekko right there. And what I do is I nicely time my R with the Nautilus Q right here, which allows us to instantly pick up the kill without Ekko being able to ult himself. Went very fast, but from this point, lane is completely over. We can completely dominate the map. We're going to be looking at Sylas' mid game. And Sylas' mid game is brutal because of the fact that there are so many variables that you have to be considering to make the right decisions. So this mid game section is going to be mainly occupied with a few examples. And in these examples, we're more or less going to be generally teaching the mid game. And of course, we're going to give it a Sylas specific tint to it. But there's not really any real reference points that you can constantly refer back to. Although there's a few things that we always got to keep in mind whenever it comes to Sylas mid game. First of all, Sylas is a fighter, a skirmisher. We win the game by winning the important fights. Keep this in mind, because fighting is going to be a very important part of our mid game. Executing upon these fights is eventually what's going to win us the game. So we're going to also put a lot of emphasis on the fighting section of the guide. The options are endless, and picking the right option in the mid game is very, very hard. This is where a lot of people will actually make the mistake. They drop the ball. If you have 10 options in the mid game, like all the way ranked 1 to 10 on the bottom. The most important thing to do on Sylas is that you don't pick the bottom 5 options. If you pick the top 5 options, you're going to be fine. But a lot of people still compensate or misread the information. They actually usually pick the bottom 5 options, which means that the mid game goes very tough. Each game, you'll have a different ult and different ults available to have from the enemy team. And that's going to give you different options to play out the game. And each ultimate is going to give you specific roles or ways that you can play fights. And you really want to combine this understanding of the ultimates with actively identifying our win condition and playing for that win condition. We want to always create a hypothesis and review it in the post game. This is going to be a little bit more of a long-term strategy that we want to be implementing to start us understanding the mid-game win conditions a little bit better. Side laning generally isn't our strong suit, especially in the 1v1. Of course, if we're ahead or we're playing against a squishy champion, we can do it. But we generally want to be avoiding bruisers because of how hard it is for us to face them. We want to be playing with our jungle or with our playmakers, with our win conditions. And we want to mainly be shove and moving instead of playing true side. Very important to identify where the next fight happens and play for it. And the reality is, since you got so many options, you will sometimes be in an absolutely chaotic game state. And you will struggle to slow down because you're in that fighting mood. That's okay, right? It happens to me as well. Learn from these situations. And whenever bad situations happen in mid-game, review it, tie it back to what your win conditions, and you'll usually fight some patterns. Let's take a look at a few examples. So, first mid-game sequence right here. This is going to be a classical Sylas mid-game sequence in which that we can win the game through good skirmishes. So, first thing that we're going to be recognizing, we're going to always do a little bit of a Sylas check in the game. Number 1, enemy ultimates. Garen is honestly quite a good ult for us. Definitely one that we can take. Ekko ult's quite good. Rel ult's quite good. Ezreal's niche, but not bad. And then Belvev, which is completely dog shit. So, if we look at the enemy team, honestly, good Sylas game. And if we take a look at our team, we got ourselves a Nautilus, we got ourselves a Zac. This is amazing because this is multi-threat for us. So that means that with these good ultimates that I can pick, and with the fact that my team has engage options, fighting is actually going to be quite easy for me in this game. And that means that this is a game where fights are just going to be good for me to take. We also see that in this particular game is that we have a lot of AP. There's a reason why I went for Conqueror plus Cosmic Drive into Riftmaker. It's because of the fact that we had so much AP in our team, and therefore I don't really value the penetration build. I also opted in for defensive boost because of that case, because I don't really value Sorks in this case, because the enemies are more likely than not going to be building MR real soon. So we're always going to be asking ourselves the question in this case, like, how are we going to be winning the game? It's very simple from this point. All we have to do is just win the key important fights and be there at the right time so we can actually translate our lead through neutral objectives. In this case, we recognize we are currently taking the Herald. We have 2 dragons. So the next thing that we're going to be playing for is this dragon coming up at 211 onto the bot side. That's all that we're going to have to do. So in the meantime, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be catching some waves and we're going to be preparing ourselves for this dragon coming up in 2 minutes, and we're going to try to get as strong as possible for that point. So I'm clearing the waves from top lane right here, and while doing so, I spot that the Belveth's going towards top side, and that means that I unfortunately cannot get this turret, even though I would love to get it. I cannot really do it. I also know Garen's going to be coming back. I'm a little bit low on resources, so it means that I am unfortunately not going to be able to get the turret right now. So the team rifts mid, so I'm going to just be opening up through mid into top side right here. Always look at the location of the waves and which waves you need to be attending in combination with where the next fight's going to be. I got TP in this case, so I don't really mind being on the weak side for a little bit because of the fact that I'm quite strong, so I'm going to be completely fine versus Garen anyway. Doing a little bit of limit testing, see if I can actually beat him and have a little bit of a feel of the power level. Honestly, pretty whatever. Looks like we're just not going to be killing each other. So I decided to not really interact too much. Main thing going through my mind right here. Next neutral objective onto the dragon. So what I'm going to be trying to do is, especially with the Jinx that just died on bot side, I'm going to try to push out top lane right here. And see if I can find a potential move onto the dragon. So dragon spawning in 50 seconds. That means that I really want to be timing my move with this dragon. And I see that there's many options in this case with this dragon. Like, I can potentially stay top for an extra wave, push out an extra top lane wave, then move down and get the pry onto the next mid lane wave. I see a little bit of a fight happening right there, so I want to just move down and see if my team doesn't take mid lane wave. So that's quite unfortunate, because in an ideal world, my team takes the mid lane wave right here. I can attend to top lane wave and then go towards Drake. But right now, since I'm forced to attend to the mid lane wave and because my team's already going deep, we are now losing top. That's no problem at all, because we can just play for the fight and I can always TP top potentially to defend the turret if necessary. So we get ourselves a nice pick onto the rel, and that pick onto the rel means that we now instantly have ourselves the free dragon secured, which means that I now do a TP into top. Instead of the other way around, B top and then TP to the fight, we now win the fight first, make a quick pick when the enemies don't really have control yet, and then TP top the other way around. So one thing to keep in mind, guys, is in a situation like this, we always got to ask ourselves the question, what's the next thing that we're going to be playing for? But not only that, we also got to ask ourselves the question, right, which sides are we going to be playing off onto the map? And we see in this particular position that I am in a very dangerous spot on top here. And the main reason why I'm in such a dangerous spot is because of the fact that I've got no vision. We just took the dragon on bot, we got the rel kill on bot, and Belvev is not showing anywhere. So that means that more likely than not, Belvev is actually cross-mapping right here and hovering the Garen. There's a reason this Garen is so far up, by the way. So the worst thing you can do right now is actually fight the Garen, get yourself killed, completely ruin the tempo of the game. Regardless, I'm just going to be waiting for my team to cross up and towards top side. And that is when I'm then going to be looking to push. I see that the Belvev now shows towards mid. So it means that I am now free to push extra waves. And that's great, because that's going to allow me to set up for the next neutral objective, which is the Atakan spawning real soon. I'm pinging my team off because I do not really have the intention to move. Matter of fact, I cannot really move. I'm still responding to the waves. If I would be early moving right here, yes, I would be playing together with them, but it would also be a little bit fishy because my wave state wouldn't be that good on the side lane, which would put the game in a pretty tricky position where we actually lose quite a bit of resources. So I'm trying to fully push out the waves first, which is exactly what I do, and that's then going to allow me to force the enemies to respond towards top lane. So now when the enemies are responding, as you can see, I'm pinging for the Atakan already. After pushing out top, I cannot really continue without being in danger. So what I'm going to be doing in this case is I'm going to be attending to the mid lane wave first right now. I'm going to give it to Jinx. I'm going to make sure that she's going to have the safety to catch this mid lane wave and also the next mid lane wave, because top lane wave is already quite deep. We are not going to go bot lane right now because it's away from the next neutral objective and we want to be playing through fights. So by me now taking mid, this is ideally Jinx's job, but Jinx moves up towards top already. That's completely fine. Then I'll just take it myself. Now forcing the enemies to respond towards the waves is going to make it very easy for us to now just start up the Atacam, because we have pushing top, pushing mid. The enemies have no vision control. It's practically impossible for them to contest the objective. So we got a beautiful play on the Atacam. And what we can do right now is we can continue this. And in this situation, one thing that I would have loved to see is that we can actually keep playing into top. So I would have loved for Zek to actually stay instead of resetting the vent top. And then we can just push mid, push top, force the enemies to respond right there, and potentially trade off bot T2, for, which is completely fine, because then we don't mess up our tempo. Regardless, we get the top T2 anyway, and the Garen is indeed responding. So we're now just in an amazing position. What I recognize, there's not really much more to gain right here besides the tier 2, because the tier 3s are up. You don't really want to be sieging tier 3s without Baron generally. So we're going to now nicely use this top lane tempo to reset and now play on the opposite side of the map. So we're now going to be playing into bot, and we see that there's a little bit of a fight happening where Zek got killed by the Bel'Veth, which makes sense because it's a very good play from what Bel'Veth did there, overstaying on that side of the map and looking for a little bit of a tempo pick. But eventually, Fiddlesticks also clears the Bel'Veth, which means that we can now push mid into bot. So I recognize that bot lane is probably already in a good spot. So I really want to have push prior on both mid and bot, but I see that there's a fight happening, so I can just hover up in between, and that allows me then to get the bot pick here as well. And this is really good that we're going to keep up the bot push right here, because we can now take up control for the dragon spawning in a minute, while also sieging the T2 potentially, which is going to give us best of both worlds. We siege all the T2 turrets, we get the dragon, which is our dragon soul, and then from that position, we're going to be in a position where we can easily take the Baron and win the game afterwards, because we're so incredibly strong. So right now, what we do is we just keep the push up on mid and keep the push up on bot. We get up the dragon, we constantly force the enemies to respond. Very clear mid game, very easy. And with the way that we approach it, we have a very nice timer on to the neutral objective. We constantly force the enemies to respond. We have the right waves pushed on the right sides, and we're there whenever the fight happens. And we're also just, when a fight's off tempo, we're not taking it. We're pushing out the tempo first, really playing the game controlled towards our position, and therefore makes a very flawless victory. For the next mid game sequence, we got a little bit of a different game right here. So this is a game that is incredibly hard for Sylas. Why is this a really hard game? We have very limited setup, right? We have very limited multi-threat, people that want to go in. You're kind of left on your own if you want to be going in. The enemy team comp is very strong in team fights, and they got champs that can basically counter parts of your kit. Right here, by just point and clicking you. So therefore, that makes this mid-game sequence just generally quite tricky. And you really have to have proper understanding of compositions, win con assessment, and just general strategy to allow yourself to make the right decisions in the mid game. So a few things to note is we got 3 groups, we got 2 dragons. We're overall in a very good position right here. Top lane, even. Jungle, doing all right, pretty even. I'm quite far ahead of mid. I've done a really good job in the lane. Bot lane is doing quite all right at the moment as well. They're also quite even. And we see that they were playing versus Sivir Yumi. So generally, we will get outskilled in this game. Not only that, if you look at team compositions, we will see that the enemy's team fighting front to back is very, very strong. Much stronger than ours. We do not have good team fighting. Especially if you ask yourself through this, if you look at this game through a Sylas perspective, we don't have that many good ults. We have pickable ults in Syndra, Sivir, and Pantheon, and also like the Rek'Sai, but there's not really any crazy good ults, which is going to make it quite hard for us to like approach this game throughout just fight perspective. We got to get very tactical about it. And by recognizing that I've got an Ezreal mid, I've got an Eve jungle and a Tryndamere top, I am identifying the win condition as this game as playing through side lane and creating man advantages. Because we got double winning side in this case, and we can turn that into pressure on the map. So I also typed that in chat, and I'll make my team aware that that's the plan that I'm going to be going for. And I'm going to be asking for hover from the Evelyn, because I know that it's going to be very hard for us to break through mid. And even though that the Rift Herald's up on top side right now, I don't necessarily like rush to contest it in this case, because I know that front to back team fights are a way that we can potentially throw this game. So I communicate towards the Eve what I want her to do, and it's exactly what she is going to be doing. So I'm happy to just trade off the Rift Herald and potentially get myself the bot turret for it. Because if I can get the bot turret, I get more room to play on in the side lane, which is then going to allow me to make more progress and play towards my win condition, the way that I view the win condition in this game. So I'm going to be clearing the wave. I see that my Eve is nicely hovering me, and we can then potentially turn this into a nice little dive. So Eve does have CC set up. So what I do is I'll start with the E. I wait for her CC into a nice nuke. Very easy dive. Really good stuff by me calling off the Rift, because that allows me to now get bot push very, very deep, and gives us an angle into the game where we are playing towards our strengths. So fantastic position right here. After we push the wave, we can now decide to either shove a move into mid, create a potential man advantage, or we can continue to pressure on bot lane a little bit. So my thought process in a situation like this, there's no reason for me to move mid, especially when Tark is dead. I want to let the enemies respond to me, and that's exactly what I do. I now force out the Pantheon. He does respond to me, he uses his W, and I'm just going to get out with my own Pantheon in this case. And now we're in a position where, because Pantheon actually responded towards bot, I now have a potential opportunity to force a fight in a man advantage position. So we're taking advantageous fights. We get ourselves a nice little pick onto the Yuumi and the Sivir. And this is the perfect example of playing through side lane in this case, using my winning side lane to create a man advantage and find myself a favorable fight. So right here, we get ourselves a nice little pick onto the Pantheon. And a little bit of a miscommunication between me and the Tark. But overall, 3 for 2 is really good for us. We had a bot lane wave in a good position. Syndra is losing a lot of minions on bot. And now we also have top lane pushing as well. So we're now going to take a reset. We're going to be buying Zonias right here. And we're going to see if we can potentially fight for the dragon. We cannot just brute force a fight on the dragon. One thing that we need to do is we need to create a man advantage in this situation. Because of the fact that our front-to-back team fighting comparative towards the enemies it's not the best, so to say. So, whenever you're opening up, guys, in this situation, this is a crucial lull state, and you always got to ask yourself the question. Number one, what side of the map do you want to be playing on? And the second question you ask yourself is, what is the location of the waves? We see that bot lane wave is in Narnia. Narnia, we don't like to go to Narnia, it's too far away. We see that top lane wave is in Narnia as well. So that only leaves us for one option, mid. And guess what? No one's attending to the mid lane wave. So what we can do is we can go through mid. Then we're going to take out mid lane wave. And after taking out that mid lane wave, we can then decide, do we either go bot or do we either go top, depending on which we see more fit at that position. So we're going to be going towards mid. We answer towards the mid lane wave. We see that the Ezreal is now coming in. And because the Twinner is heading top, it's very easy. I'm just going to be playing our own bot lane. The enemies haven't started the objective yet. A very important thing that I want to be doing in this situation is I want to grab up the mid lane priority and then play into bot side. Why is it so important to grab up the mid lane priority together with your team? Well, that's then going to allow you to get vision control because the enemies are responding. And then it's really hard for them to regain area control. So I'm lurking around mid for a little bit longer instead of just brute forcing bot right now. Bot lane wave is neutral. I am not in a hurry to get there. I want to get there, but I'm not in a hurry to do so. So we catch Syndra out of a bad position. And we chunk her. Unfortunately, she lives. But it's completely fine. What we'll just do is we see the Pantheon on bot. We see the Rek'Sai on top. So I'm confident that we can potentially quickly force. And that's exactly what happens. We get a nice pick onto the Syndra, which will then allow us to get the control and take the dragon in the man advantage. So we did a really good job abusing the fact that Pantheon wasn't in position. And afterwards, what we're going to do right now is we're still happy fighting right now. There's a lot of people that would go bot here. Going bot is not bad. But what we do see is that the enemies actually put down the Rift Herald. And I also recognize that Syndra is still dead. So if a fight happens, I'm actually pretty happy right now because we're in a clear man advantage. So I actually find a pretty decent flank angle right here. And we actually try to collapse onto the Sivir. So unfortunately, I rush my E2. Really good dodge by her regardless. But still, since it's a man advantage fight right here, we're actually in a completely okay position because Syndra is nowhere to be found. Once again, I rush my E2. Thank you for hold on to it a little bit longer. We're in a much better position. But we're constantly putting ourselves in a position where we're playing advantageous. Now we recognize that we cannot go ahead and siege this turret. It's a 4v4, so we call off the play right here. And now instantly we're going to be trying to create that man advantage again, going towards the side and pushing out the side. And in this case, Tryndamere takes over bot. I'll just go over towards top lane. And we're going to now be in this position where we're going to try to get the push on mid and top to potentially play for the Alticon. So I'm pinging my Ezreal to get push on mid. Unfortunately, Ezreal's like lurking around top lane for some reason. That's fine. Tryndamere can now get the wave on mid. And guess what? We see that the Rek'Sai is on bot lane. What does that mean? We are currently in a man advantage. That means that forcing at the moment is great for us. The enemy Sivir is responding to the wave. We now have Tryndamere attending to mid lane wave and Syndra's contesting space. This is very dangerous what she's doing. So looking at this situation, we're now finding ourselves in a nice man advantage position because of the fact that we fought a play where the enemies weren't really able to participate. So we get ourselves a nice little pick, which we can then eventually turn into the Alticon. And we did lose the bot tier 2 for it, but that's completely fine. That's a completely okay trade for us. We have the waves all pushed in. We trade tier 2 bot for the Alticon. Very decent trade. We'll instantly look to get the reset. And now we're always going to be asking ourselves instantly, what's the next objective? Where do we want to be playing? In this case, we got ourselves the Baron we can potentially play for if the enemies mess up. But otherwise, we're just going to be nicely fighting forwards to the Chemtech Dragon. The Chemtech Dragon is a little bit more consistent. So I'm going to be opening towards bot, push out the bot lane waves, see if my Ezreal needs any help in the mid lane wave. Ask yourself the question, can your bot lane get prio themselves? If the answer to that question is yes, feel free to stay on the side. If the answer to that question is no, then you got to help them, of course. So in this case, Ezreal gets prio, I get prio. We're now in a position where we got prio everywhere, which means that we can always force this man advantage play. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. So in this case, my goal is to try to make the enemies respond to me on bot. I'm not moving mid if they haven't responded to this big ass wave onto bot yet. And since we're 2v1 onto bot, I want more people to respond to bot. So I'm very happy fighting right here with our resources that we got. And we finally bait out the Pantheon R right here. We get ourselves a decent skirmish, in which that we are just slowly chipping away at the Pantheon's HP bar. And with the Taric Sylas combination, as you can see, like we're almost invincible with the amount of healing that we got. He's giving me an insane amount of armor as far as I know as well. And that puts us in a position where we can nicely skirmish. We also then get the pick onto the Sivir. And we're constantly playing unfair in a really, really, really hard game. And eventually we just take all the turrets. We take 2 inhibs. After that, what we do is we set up area control. We get the soul as well. We set area control for top side. Once again, constantly playing these 2 lanes, pushing out the sides, forcing the enemies to respond, then playing the objective. 0 counterplay for the enemies in a very hard Sylas game. Really good way of shoving out the side lane waves, playing towards these high percentage fights, only taking the good fights, not flipping fights, which cleanly closes out the game. Sylas wins the game through winning the important fights. Hence why I thought it would be pretty important to also include a section on how to fight and skirmish properly onto the champion. This is really, really hard. The skill cap of this part of his gameplay is almost infinite. Generally though, the most important thing to understand is that the key to winning fights on Sylas is understanding your role. And there's a few things that you gotta ask yourself and you gotta understand to assess and give an answer towards this role understanding question. The game changes every single game for Sylas. You have different ults to your availability. You have different teammates, different ways, different win conditions to play for. And you have to assess these 3 questions before you go into a team fight. Number 1, which ultimates do you got available? If you got a Malphite R or a Lulu R, it massively changes your options in the fight. Your team's win condition. Do you have a fat Jinx that you want to be peeling? Or do you want to be diving deep with your Hecarim or with your Nautilus? Which also ties in towards the final point, multi-threat. Do you have multiple CC options or are you the only one that can really go in? It really depends on how you want to be playing your fight, the fights, and that way you can understand how you want to be navigating those areas without making mistakes. It's really easy to make mistakes upon this part. So, not only that, but also proper micro execution is necessary. Sylas has a few skill shots in his kit, the E2, the Q. You have a lot of different ults every single game that you have to learn and understand how to use. So it's really easy to mess up, and it's going to take you a lot of experience, time, and just general game understanding to do this consistently. Let's dive deep into a few examples. So I want to run through a few more bonus fights on Sylas in a game that I thought was really worthy looking at. So before we go into the specific fights, I want to lay the groundworks of these fights, and we're going to take a look at it through Sylas' perspective, of course. What do we see in this particular game is we see that we got ourselves pretty much full AP team composition right here. Hence is also why I opted in for the Conqueror into the Riftmaker. I think I made a small mistake buying the Proto Belt. Not a good Proto Belt game at all. And we see that Jinx is overall doing quite well. She's strong. She's our only AD champ. She's also the only real champ with DPS. Whereas the enemies who are actually quite tanky. So the fights are mainly going to be playing out with Jinx as a win condition. Protect the Jinx. Get her the reset. And that's how we can potentially play out the fight. So that's the main thing that we're going to try to do. If we look at the enemy's team comp, but we got some decent ults in on the line. We got Udyr R, which is good. We got Volibear R, which is good. We got Nautilus R, which is good. Plenty of us to take from, and yeah, just take away from it. So we're going to start off all the way in the early game right here, which is mainly a little bit of an opportunistic fight. So initially what happens is that I'm just coming back from lane, and there's going to be a little bit of a 3v3 happening up in the top side. And now 3v3s are generally quite good for us. Initially, like the enemies are level 6, we are not level 6, so we were not initially planning to fight this. We're slightly behind, lane's not going too well, as you see as well. But with this pick onto the way, because they overstep tempo a little bit, we can now potentially take a nice opportunistic play right here onto the enemies, especially with the Iron Shields. So I do a nice little follow-up onto the enemy's multi-threat, or onto my team's multi-threat. I hold my W to secure the kill onto the Volibear, and eventually we also get the kill onto the Udyr at the end. Nice man advantage for us right here. And few things I really want to note is I'm holding my E right here to wait for the CC. So I could have used my E a lot earlier here already, but the reality is I need to hold my E for the CC to guarantee it landing and guarantee me getting on top of the enemies. If I E forward and I don't land my E2 because I flip it, I'm not going to be able to deal damage, and potentially we may even lose this fight into losing the game. If we lose this fight, the game is just instantly over from that point. So, next fight, rocking up right here. Same game, right? All of these clips are going to be the same game right here. And we see that there's a little bit of play happening on the Articon. So I see that there's a brute force happening. I'm on the other side of the map. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to TP in and see if I can potentially be partaking in the fight. My goal is to try the setup for Jinx, right? Get the Jinx resets going, because that's what I know is going to eventually allow us to win this fight. So a very important decision that I made in this particular fight is that I actually decided to go onto the targets and that we're actually focusing my Jinx right here. So one of the key things that I do right here is I pick up the Udyr. Udyr is one of these Rs that or I already had the Udyr, so to say, because I took it a little bit earlier. So I have the Udyr, and look at my target selection. I can go on the way, I can go on the Nautilus, or the way or the Udyr, but it's not important. I want to set up resets together with the Jinx right here. So that's exactly where I'm going. I'm going onto these guys to try to save the Jinx, try to get resets. And in this case, we pincer them, collapse onto them. Very nice. One of the good things in this case is that how decisive I am. I tried to save the Jinx. I think in hindsight, I could have potentially prevented myself from using the flash. But overall, the result is quite good. Very similar position right here afterwards. What we see is that we're contesting bot side control right here. The enemies are slightly overstaying tempo, and Udyr shows top. That's massive, because that means that right now we can potentially hard force with a man advantage, especially with me having the Volibear R. So that's exactly what I'm doing right here. I'm going in deep. I'm waiting for my team to follow up, and I'm just playing around my W rotations. And in this case, we therefore get ourselves a beautiful, beautiful fight in the man advantage while the enemies weren't in the position to collapse. And we then TP bot to save the bot turret. Beautiful usage of the little states. Very good macro-oriented fight. And one thing that I really want to highlight is that I don't full send it right now. Is that I play a little bit slower. I wait for my team to come in. I wait for multi-threat. So right here is we get the pick onto the way, and we are out with the Volibear. Because if I are in right there, I'm going to get myself killed. I will get one shot, by the way. So I are out. I wait for the Iron with the Iron shield and the chunk that I initially had onto the enemies. We then easily grab ourselves these kills right here, which will allow us to get this beautiful, beautiful fight. So we're now getting into the mega late game. And this is where the fights are going to be super, super important to nail when it comes to win con assessment. We recognize that we want to be playing for the Jinx reset. We want to be playing with the Jinx. So that's the mindset that we should have. And in this particular fight, I see a nice Leona ult onto the way, and I then decide to follow up onto the way, which almost gets me killed. And I think this is a fight that in the end, right, what we see is that it gets quite messy. We get chased down right here. It's pretty much an extended fight, also where the enemies are following up on us. And in the end, what happens is that we do get some resets onto Jinx, but Jinx in the end dies as well. And it's just an absolute mess in this case. Absolute messy fight. So let's start off with the beginning right here, where I think that I personally make a little bit of a mistake, right? What I need to do is I need to not send it onto Wei. What I need to do is I can completely send the Q and the UDR onto the enemies right here, but I need to play it a little bit slower. I just need to posture there aggressively, dance outside of the edges right here without fully committing. Then my Jinx can potentially get a reset, and then we can potentially collapse into the Volibear. So I think I slightly rushed the play right here, and I got super chunked, which made it hard for me to now potentially hard engage onto the Udyr when the Jinx has the reset. So definitely a little bit of an initial misplay on the fight. It's good that I kite out, and the main thing to do right now is stay alive and play around your W rotations. So you see that in this case, I'm also like kiting really, really well. I grab up the UDR, I slow him, W in, E out, because you cannot really continue in that regard here as well. W in, E out to create distance, play around the W rotations. With W you can go in, with E you can go out. And that puts you then in a position where you can play on these more rotations, play on the edges of the fight. That's the best thing to do. And I didn't do that properly at the beginning. I went in too deep, too early, not playing around my win con, which means the fight got a little bit more messy than I initially wanted it to be. So we got a next final fight in this case right here, which is rocking up in the jungle. We know that Wei is dead. We know that Ivern's dead. And we know that this is later than the previous fight, by the way. This is the very deciding fight here in this game. We got ourselves 4 items. I pick up the Naughty R because it's a good R for me to get. And I try to brute force while the Wei is dead and the enemies are like contesting area control. Wei is dead. Ivern's in base. And what happens is that we get ourselves a pretty decent initial pick. But the problem is that this Jinx actually puts herself in a position where she now gets Wei flanked into Naughty hooked. And once Jinx dies, the fight is over. So this fight, even though initially it did look quite good, we did get absolutely trampled and destroyed in this fight. Why was that the reason? Well, we fought without the Ivern, and the Ivern was a very crucial part towards our team comp in keeping this Jinx alive. Look what happens to Jinx in the back line. She gets herself Volibear Eat. She gets herself Ezreal ulted, Nautilus ulted. And then what happens is because she's so low, right, she also gets Volibear ulted upon, right? And the Ivern, she misses the Ivern redemption. And then she's just the victim to the Wei E and the Nautilus Q, which is a pretty brutal Q from the Nautilus. But once this Jinx dies, and once she doesn't get the DPS off, we automatically lose this fight. There's no way back from this particular position because we have no DPS. So the reality is, we rushed this fight right here. We should not have contested this choke point. We should have been on the mid lane wave, pushed an extra mid lane wave, forced the enemies to respond, wait for the Ivern to get in, then create that front to back, in which that we can peel the Jinx and play for her, and then potentially get the dragon into the Baron afterwards, which would win the game. So in this case, even though the situation didn't look at dire at the beginning, the macro of this part is not good because of very specifically our win condition Jinx needs to be staying alive. I also don't think I peeled her that well. I went quite deep myself trying to stack my Conqueror, which kind of left her alone in that regard and lost us the game. So what are potential learning objectives that you can apply whenever you are playing Sylas? The first thing is every death is an opportunity. That's the way that I want you to view it. And mainly the isolate deaths. Skirmishing oriented deaths are something that we're going to be discussing in a different learning objective. But if you die isolate, if you try to trade on mid, or you go too deep on mid, or you get collapsed upon by an enemy, what you didn't expect, or in the side lane, or you were in a position that you try to do something but it didn't work out. Every single time, that's a beautiful learning opportunity for Sylas, because on Sylas you're so committal. So if you actively make a decision to do something and it is not the right decision, you'll instantly get punished for it. So that's a beautiful learning opportunity every single time that happens. The classic post-game learning objective. Use the micro and macro framework for the key skirmishes and fight. This is going to be one that we're going to be ramming down your guys' throats because of the fact that this is just Sylas his way of winning games. If you fight well, you're going to be winning games. If you're not fighting well, if you're struggling in that regard, you're going to be in a very tough position in the game. So key skirmish and fight is an important one to break down. I'm also got some in-game learning objectives. So this is mainly going to be lull states oriented, because if you make the right decisions, usually you're going to put yourself in the right position. So use your lull states to identify the ults that you can take from the enemy team, and knowing your role in the fight, knowing how you want to be fighting, it's going to really streamline your execution in game, and also where and when the fight happens. You see that this entire trend is all about fighting, because that's how Sylas works. And if you want to achieve some bonus points in this regard, if you can look at these particular things from the enemy's POV, you're going to be learning a lot. This is a nice little cheat code of really trying not to only internalize how you want to be playing, but also how the enemies want to be playing and how you interact with that as Sylas. And that's going to give you more holistic game understanding, which just means that this in the end is going to really level up your Sylas gameplay, because Sylas is a champ that's actively skills with your general game understanding. Alright, welcome everybody. We're going to be taking a look at a game of Sylas versus Syndra. This is one of the worst Sylas games I've seen in a while. There's not really major ultimates that are good for me to steal on the enemy team. The enemy team is basically countering me, because it's really hard for me to dive deep on top of their team. I've got very little setup in my team. So this Sylas game, when it comes to how hard it is a 10 out of 10. And I've not played a hard Sylas game like that in a while. So this is a 10 out of 10 hard Sylas game. So it's going to be a nice challenge. Matchup in isolation is fine. She's taking a pretty aggressive setup right here. So it's going to be quite hard for me to look for early trades. Potentially I can brute force it through the bone plating, but I'm not entirely sure. For safety, security reasons, I'm going to ward level 1. I might lose push in near the game. We'll see. Good level 1 ward. Let me muting all. And yeah, we're going to see if Syndra potentially makes a mistake. We do want to play here. This is good. This is really good. I guess that was a nice little solo kill. So I lose 1 million of XP for it, but it's fine, since I do get the kill. I tried to dodge the Q there, but generally it's a good trade for me here, because I knocked off her bone plating, and trading HP is good for me because of the fact that... that's shit. Trading HP is generally good for me because of the fact that that's going to allow me to... fuck me. Put her under kill threat. And I kind of need to play with kill threat here. She's going to contest me on that creep. Yep. I should have not tried to kill it. Should have just given it. It's okay though. She's got no E now. I kind of want to crash this wave. Let's just crash the wave and get out, actually. I'm in an okay spot. Eve is in a really good spot. TP back. We're going to stat check her now. We kept our potions up as well. We only lose 1 creep, so I'm pretty happy with this. This is going to put me in a position of a lot of lane control. Okay, I tried to keep her in lane here. She has no real abilities, so this is quite good. If she resets here, she's going to lose quite a bit of minions. She doesn't. Almost one-shot her. If I flash that E, she dies. Okay, it's a good trade. We're gonna really slow play here. She TPs. This is a potential good engage angle instantly. I doubt... I don't know. She has her bone plating back up. We're gonna scout here. Oh, she's playing here. Got a pot. Beautiful. So, even though my wave state is disgusting, I think it's good to move there. Because of the fact that it really enables Eve. And it's kind of towards my identity. It's really good. I knew Pantheon had no flash, so the play was pretty guaranteed as well. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. This guy getting kills is bad for me. I cannot deal with Rek'Sai that well, because he's just a bit of a stat check machine. We can potentially force it to make a mistake here. Okay, we did force her to make a mistake. We landed a very nice max range E. We got our flash. So that's one of the favorite tricks, is that you go for a last hit, and they think they're safe, but they're actually not. She has bone plating now, which means that she is quite safe. Oh, my sides are losing. Guess that's an A-OK ult for me. I cancelled the reset, which is really good. I don't know what Yumi ult does, actually. Gotta be careful I don't get roamed upon by that guy. I don't know where the Pantheon is exactly. Probably went into Bolt. I'm gonna reset real soon. Game is gonna be heavily on me. That's big that our team is winning on Bolt. I'll just take a reset right now, match her. I'll just reset. It's fine. I'll be on high on tempo now. Maybe I should just use it. Maybe it actually deals a shit ton of damage. I don't know. I've actually never used this R. I'm gonna insta use it when Syndra comes back to lane. Oh, you're actually locked out of doing anything else when that ult's active. Okay, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad ult. I was trying to Q while I was ulting, but it's not really possible. Okay, let's play top here. Play with the Eve. Oh, that's big. Let's get some vision here. This is potentially quite good. Good dodge. She has nothing up now. She has no E. She's going to try the CS here. Beautiful. That was really nice. Going through the minions right there. She didn't expect that. So whenever they go to CS, that's the best time to look for those windows. If I had Syndra R, I'm pretty sure I one-shot her there. She reset. That allows me to take a plate. I gotta be a bit careful here. Because enemy bot has moved, so I'll just respect right now. I'll respect and I'll wait a bit. I would love to ward there, but it's a bit dangerous. Okay, so enemy bot shows on bot again. Since I get a bit of a warding window. If I land an E now, she's pretty dead. Nice dodge with the W. Good proccing of the bone plating. I can potentially kill her here. Damn, that lands. She dies. Let's just reset TP back, not take any risks. I don't want to lose my shutdown. Potentially port bot. It looks like she's backing off. Upper support mid. Get a control art. That was really well played, actually. We cannot insta-W onto Rek'Sai, because then he's going to cancel our W. Okay. Can invest our HP. Oh my god, I missed the cannon. Invest the HP for reset. And now we're going to go for the Sork Shoes here. Let's take a look what we're going to get. Sork Shoes. Going to be quite strong. And we're going to go back to lane. Because we got so much control. And we're kind of pushing her in. We can just reset whenever we want without losing too many minions in the meantime. So grubbies are spawning. Definitely nice to get. I'm gonna push a bit here. Definitely want to play on the grubbies. Push on this wave as well. Because the grubbies are then being started. Gotta be careful I don't get hit by her. Should have dodged that with an E. So we got an Ocean Drake actually. It's impossible for it to poke me out. Alright, let's take a look. So Rek'Sai shows top. She can't really touch the creeps right now. She used all of her abilities here. Okay, she used her R. It's hard for me to make any progress onto her at this point with her E. It's so easy for her to self-heal with the bone plating as well. Without bone plating, it would be a lot easier. I don't know where the Pantheon is as well. We can just commit, press W on top of my face, and I might just die. It's so hard for me to play anywhere. Okay, we denied a reset, which is good. I think eventually we'll have to play this game through side, because we got Tryndamere Sylas versus Rek'Sai Syndra, which should be double winning side with Eve. I think that's the way we're going to win this game. So if we can get an early dragon right now, while we're still strong, that's really impactful. Let's move bot. Looks to be a little bit of a play happening. It's looking tough there though. Yeah, Eve dying is disgusting. Wow, they probably spotted me. They had like some vision probably. Not here, it seems like. Can't really progress. What do I buy? I think Cosmic is a good buy. I just do this and this. TP back. Can potentially still fight Drake if I'm around now. One shot the wave. Start Drake up. Hard push next wave. Keep up the prio. Syndra stayed. It's a good trade for me. That's a bit unlucky. Okay, we'll just reset. Deny her a few minions. Maybe we can actually look at the top here. But I don't really think so. Eve probably gets him. I have to just reset. Man, this game is really hard to progress. We got so little engage. So little playmaking tools. Oh. Nice. Good job. Should be pretty free Herald then. And potentially... Nah, I don't think that's it. But Herald is good because that allows us to progress potentially through mid. Which is going to be really hard for us to progress through this game. I should stop using my proto belt. I should stop inting my minions that I'm forced to use my proto belt like that. Yeah, bot lane is a big trouble zone. We can... This Sivir is going to be so problematic. To grab up this red buff. I got my E coming back up now. Maybe she's gonna make a mistake. I think we should play this and give bot. She might make a mistake here. Yep. Very nice. Finally, we get her. I don't like that we're playing bot. I think we should play top. Eve's got no R as well. Getting mid turret here is really big if I can. That's going to open up the game and for so many plays, especially with Eve in Vis. It's going to put so much pressure on them. So getting this is actually insane. Okay, be careful now. I might just get collapsed upon. Yep. Okay. Do I have item? I do have item now. We need the boys on mid. It's very important we need the boys on mid. I need to play side this game. I'm gonna get a control ward and play true side. It would suck if we lose mid turret. We cannot fight that. It's unfightable. That ward's not gonna help you, brother. Beautiful. Beautiful pick. Really well done by Eve. I communicated it nice in advance. She had time to position herself in a way. This was really good. That's how we're going to be winning this game. I want to make someone respond to me in the side first before moving. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Grab the Pantheon R and R out. So we wait after he W's, then we can play. So potentially we can now play on mid here. With this man advantage that we created. Beautiful. We're really nailing the macro this game. I should have pinged my team that there was a Syndra TP. Oh my god. I didn't expect him to do that. It's okay. I just didn't expect him to R there. Like, was it? It's fine. It's okay. Do I take one more? I'm definitely going Zonia's. Nah, I don't need one more. I'll just do this, get my item, and get back into the into the map. I'm gonna push one mid lane wave and then go side. I think we are at the point where we can potentially team fight right now, even though we don't have Dark R. Yeah, it's playable. It's good. Really, that shit doesn't kill. It's fine. Oh, nice, we got him. Okay, that's free Drake. Third dragon. So we open up mid there. I just take the ward. Because we need to contest that mid lane wave if we want to fight the objective. Maybe Sivir's gonna int actually. Maybe I'm gonna int actually. I'm really strong. I got myself Zonia's. We can potentially contest mid here. I could have also pushed bot, but I think it's a mid contest. We need to prevent enemies from doing anything with the Herald. We got out an exhaust. Okay, we did a pretty decent job here. I still got Zonia's. This may just be playable if I dodge Syndra E. I'm gonna fish. Nah, there's no fishing. I should go back to side. I think if I slow down my E2 usage a little bit there, we actually wipe them. Because if I land that on Sivir, it's really, really big. Can now potentially play the Atacon here. What's the best R for me to take? I reckon Rek'Sai's probably not that bad as well. It can stall for my cooldowns. The R's are so shit, actually. We're gonna open up top here. Not sure what my Ezreal's doing. Should just keep pushing on that mid lane wave, by the way. Ezreal kind of sprinted the macro here, but it's fine. So I don't really want to defend. I think defending is not good. We can just take the Atacon for free. was hit at the moment. Now we'll take the next top lane wave. Should be guaranteed that we get the Atacon. We only get the top lane wave when it's guaranteed that we get the Atacon. We don't flip it. So we get the Atacon right here. I'll let my team do this. I need one more wave for Zonia's. I'm gonna go Magi's. I don't want to sell my D-Ring. I can now just open a bot, clear the bot lane wave. We have a very clear win condition on the dragon. I don't think we should do Nash. I feel pretty safe because of my high HP and Zonias that have like stopwatch that I have. I have a Seeker's Arm Guard. And I missed the cannon again. Because for some reason I didn't auto. We cannot really push one more. We have to do this first. Okay. Beautiful stuff. Looks like no one's defending. Oh, Rek'Sai's defending. Nice little chunk. Oh, you actually have to click that. That's good. I don't know how Rek'Sai works. I was just spamming R. I've never played Rek'Sai in my life, actually. But it seems like you have to click the champion, which makes sense because you can have multiple targets. That would have potentially landed. She's got no E now. There we go, flash. It should be a brute force dive. Yep, really easy. Beautiful. Hey, I think we navigated this Sylas game incredibly well. Like, this was a really hard Sylas game. And we played it nicely, slow and controlled. So we get the inhib and then we can do dragon. I want to prioritize dragon, actually. It's a really good Drake for Sylas, by the way. Playing on low HP is very strong. Then after dragon we can easily just play into Nash and top, because they sit on the same side. If you go Nash right now, then you kind of want to go top to siege, and then you kind of cannot really take the dragon because it's on the opposite side of the map. So we go dragon into top side, play Nash into end. The problem is that Sivir has got 3 items. So Sivir 3 items means that if she wants, she can stall. Even Baron minions. Like, it's crazy how fast she clears waves. Sivir Yumi. I'm gonna look for a little bit of a tempo trap potentially. Someone on the wave. If the cannon dies, I'll just take it. Can't be missing more of these cannons, you know. Let's push now, free objective. I'm going to be sitting in the fog around the edges, preventing the enemies from entering. Holy shit, how did Panty get there? Oh, he probably ulted. Good try by him. Yeah, I always forget that Panty can do that. Wow, we killed the Sivir. This is game. Let's game right here. We don't have... Oh, we do have a wave. We need to... I thought we had no wave. We can just end with this wave. Good game, man. Really good game. Hard Sylas game. I think we navigated it really well. So, pretty proud of this one. I think... Do we want to have an early ward level 1? Probably not. Level 1. We do need to defend our chickens though. Nah, we're not gonna go for level 1 ward. Because we're gonna try 2-wave into 2-wave. That's the goal. Let's see, maybe he's gonna make a mistake. If he starts E, that's great. Belvav can't do much here. Oh, he started W. Ooh, blunder. That's a fucking blunder. He was fine too. Damn, now my Jinx is getting real. Imagine she's just getting gapped by the Rel, by the way. The Rel's just one-shotting her, actually. I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. I have to go to mid. Wow, the Nauti's the GOAT. Okay, we gotta keep that in mind. Nauti's playing Rel. Okay, so Ekko started W. It's gonna be hard for him to contest. I did kind of troll that E. It's okay though. Just zoning him off, so he can't even get in there. Gotta crash this wave. And place a nice little ward. I can't really harass him in the tower anyway. He did take Q secondary. I gotta make sure to avoid his Q. And keep up my bone plating. And guess what I do? I don't do it. It's level 3 now. Just gonna deny him some last hits here. Gotta back off. We're not really gonna be brute forcing trades, we're just gonna get stronger than him. Good trade. He overextended there. And now we have the wave slow pushing again. He was forced to walk up there, so that's why I Q. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten the cannon. So Belvav shows bot, and that means that I have the potential to potentially look on him here. He's going to lose all of these minions, by the way. Yep, good pressuring. I'm going to pop my pot. Full mute all. I'm now vulnerable to a Belvav gank, especially because Belvav is more likely than not onto the Wraiths again. Yeah, he's also playing very disrespectful. Yep, that's what I thought. Belvav is right there. I'm gonna fake pressure here. Belvav shows top side now, so I can lean bot side a little bit more. And we're just slowly building a pretty serious CS advantage. Pretty bad Q. Didn't properly time it with a last hit. Gotta get the wave in. Get some bot side vision. Potentially we can play bot here. We're gonna do a bit of a half roam. Nah, Sex got it covered with Jinx. I'm chilling. I don't want to give him the free push of this wave, so I'm gonna stay in fork for a little bit. Denied him another minion. I'm slowly playing the resource war here. That hit this creep, so he's gonna lose that one too. Yep, so we're up like 12 CS or something like that, which is good. Gonna be doing some pressure onto the minions. That was incredibly sexy. Really nicely put next to the wave. And we just denied him onto the last hit. And we nicely take ourselves a reset. So we are super, super, super strong here. We're going to try a bit of a different build. We're going to try a different build today. Let's see if we have TP. Yeah, I have TP. For the grubbies. Is he playing on me here? Is Belvav mid? No, she's not. Okay, so I can just grab up a good R whenever I want. Because the Ekko R is a really good R. What? I thought I would be fine there, but the Belvav just nuked me, man. My bad. Oh, that's pretty fucking bad. Oh, if I insta-R, do I then get ported there? Probably not. Nah, he has R still. We can't play that. That's on me. Pretty fucking big blunder right there. We can trade for Dragon though. We're still really far ahead in the lane, so we're chilling. I should just flash earlier. Belvav is going to be a small issue. I just lost 2 creeps for no reason there. Can get a plate here. I'm also going to space control him a bit. I'm going to potentially bait him into a trade here. Yep. Beautiful. And he missed 2 creeps because of that. So we're going to be building out this advantage. Belvav shows top. You're not getting this one for free. Nope. We're bumping him off that one as well. Nice Q. I have no R anymore, so I gotta be a bit careful. Okay. Gotta be careful of the Belvav again. And we're just bumping him off minions slowly but surely. He's not getting a single creep here with the wave state as well. Belvav shows top. I can potentially find an all-in. Slightly thinning out the wave. And we found a perfect all-in at a time where I wasn't under threat. So Belvav didn't show anymore on top. I'm gonna hope and pray to God that she does not move mid. Oh, I'm fucked. Actually. Yeah, it's just flip. It's on me. That's a pretty big mistake. This guy is not bad, this Belvav. I cannot disrespect her like that. So that's a pretty big blunder. A lot of money to this guy. And he's really, really fat. So thankfully we got like a Nautilus that can just point and click ultra. Otherwise we'd been in a little bit of trouble. I'm going to lose a minion wave because of that as well. Next grubbies are coming up. Pretty important that we... that we're going to be getting those. If we kill Garen, it's good. If we don't kill Garen and we use 2 ults, it's pretty bad. So we take the Ekko R because the Ekko R is actually very valuable for us. It's probably the best R we can get. Especially with the fight coming up. So I want to take it before he dies. So we have it available for the fight. Big play by Naut. Naut smurfing it. I fucking hate this Belvev. You need to play instantly, by the way. Nice. Now it's completely smurfing it here. We need to insta play, otherwise I lose my my Belvev of my Ekko R. Hard pushing the wave here. There's gonna be a fucking dive on bot. He's dead as fuck. Yeah, he ran it down. We're trying to skill check the rel there. Beautiful. Great timing with the Naughty R. I still got that Ekko main, that old Ekko main in me. If this Belvev is mid again. Yeah, this Belvev is playing incredibly well. She's playing the macro also really correctly, so I gotta keep that in mind. This guy's pretty good. This guy might just carry the game. Cannot get sloppy. I'm just TP mid right now. Also grab ourselves this. Top solo losing now. We are landing some Bluetooth Eves though. Or is the server just lagging or something? I don't know what it is. I gotta be a bit careful. Moving towards the Drake. We're getting the objectives now, which is good. Gotta focus the Belvev. Yep, beautiful. So I knew who the target was, and we played for it. So nice. That skirmish was really well played. We got the rel, and afterwards we focused the Belvev. Even though she had a really good flash, we yeah, that was a game-winning skirmish right there. She wasn't 2 items with that fight, by the way. Crazy how strong she was actually. You know, this Belvev is flaming the Ekko, potentially. Poor guy. Tough matchup. He's trying his best. So, the Sorcerer shoes are just disgustingly bad this game. And the main reason why they're so bad is because of the fact that we're full AP. So, I'm just going to be opting in for... I don't know what the fuck this is, but I'm going to go for Tabis. I think it's good, Tabis. Because it's like really good against all of them. Okay. Play happening. It's good. Got the Garanar. Yeah, this Belva seems a bit frustrated right now. Yeah, they're unhappy, that's for sure. Oh, my R just disappears, huh? So the Garen R just disappears like that. Interesting, I didn't know that. You gotta be careful with Belva doesn't instantly commit now. That's what I would do if I were her. Grab up the shutdown. Need him to go mid. Way more efficient. Gotta make sure I don't get Belvev killed here. Can now play hover. No, Belvev's moving up top. I have no info on Garen, so I'm a bit hesitant to play here. I have no Dark Shield. Let's get up a Dark Shield. We're doing well. Damn, that's a shit herald. Gonna open up a little bit right here. We're not gonna insta go top. Now we will go top. Seems like we got the herald regardless. Oh my god, that's such a shit TP. I'm just curious if I win. I don't know if I win. I'll probably beat him. I've got really strong items. I should probably beat him. You mean the hot tub stream? It will come when someone puts in the points. Okay, Belva fucked up there. Let's open up through mid and play on the objective. Let's get up mid prio here. Okay, I should be allowed to do this. Now we go back top. Well, we guarantee the Drake because of the pick, and then we can just easily go top. So Belvev may be hovering here now. If she's good, she's hovering on this side. So I gotta be very careful here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's hovering. I'm pretty fucking sure she's hovering. Do I limit test it? Ah, I shouldn't do it. She's hovering for sure, man. Fuck me, that's unlucky. She knows what's up, so... she's for sure hovering. I can't play. Playing mid now. I got no TP, so there's no reason for me to move there. Like, I can't move. If they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. It's fine. If they die, it doesn't matter. No objectives are up. So we're just gonna be nicely hitting turret here and making progress. And if they die, it is what it is. What's up, Gingers? You made a LOL drafting game. What does it entail? Okay. I'm pushing in the waves, forcing someone to respond to me. Valve is alive, team's resetting, I can't hit. I gotta back off here. I wish I could do anything, but my champ doesn't clear camps well as well, so just play for the Attica now, boys. I need to contest this next mid wave. Grab it up here. Give my Jinx cover. Need to push one more mid. One more mid into top. Team. Well, it's good that the enemies aren't actively contesting. If they actively contest this mid wave. We can't play there. Okay. So Belvav knows what I'm trying to do probably. Gotta make sure I don't get killed by her. Pretty annoying I don't get the blue instantly. Okay, so she's on the bot side, so that means that I can now contest mid lane wave again. Beautiful. We're gonna leave bot for what it is at the moment. I will just trade bot T2 for top T2. The enemies should take this T2 here. They're a bit out of position. They're probably going to respond to us, which is a pretty big blunder. Very nice. So we got to now back off there. And now we're going to be playing into bot tier 2. And mid. Reset into bot mid is what we're going to do. I think Zac might beat her. No, he doesn't. Fiddle's cooking though. Keep pushing bot. We can easily push bot and mid here. And end out the game. Have to help bot. It's fine. We don't TP for this, guys. Because we are fully chilling already. We already use our tempo move right here. Ooh, that's a lot of damage. That's a crazy amount of damage. Keep pushing in the waves. We get the turret here. They can't defend. Nice shift up from the Jinx. Now just play Dragon. And then on the Baron, we're going to start sieging tier 3s. This way we don't take any risk. So we got to answer the mid lane wave real quick here first. Prevent the enemies from getting any type of control back. Very nice. And now we'll just take Drake for free. Top's also winning. They might have F soon. This is kind of over here. Just take the Dragon and then we can play Baron. Oh, wow. Insane. Insane snipe. Nice. And we won the game. So, besides for like 2 ints onto the Belvav, or like 3, I don't know how many times I inted her. Game was actually really, really good. So, yeah, honestly, really, really nice game, man.